Resentment is one of those emotions that feels deceptively righteous. On the surface it tells you that you were wronged, that you were cheated out of something you deserved, that the world owes you a correction. It whispers that your anger is justified, and sometimes it is. But resentment has a way of planting itself in the psyche like a parasite, feeding not on justice but on your energy, your sense of possibility, your capacity to move forward. Unlike rage, which bursts outward, resentment works inward, a slow acid that corrodes the container more than the object it's aimed at. To understand resentment is to understand why so many people walk through life with the appearance of strength but the heaviness of defeat inside. It's the unspoken tension in the workplace when someone feels overlooked for a promotion. It's the bitterness in relationships when one partner silently tallies up perceived slights. It's the child grown into an adult who never forgave a parent for their failures, carrying that wound like a hidden talisman of identity. Resentment turns personal history into a script you can't stop rereading, even when the ink is smudged and the story leads nowhere. Philosophers have long recognized the destructive power of resentment. Nietzsche saw it as the defining sickness of humanity, calling it ressentiment, a poisoned morality that arises when people feel powerless to act on their frustrations. Instead of confronting life directly, resentment rewrites reality into a story where others are villains and we are the unseen heroes waiting for cosmic justice. It becomes an inverted form of pride, where the individual sustains themselves not through growth but through a constant comparison that keeps their grievances alive. In this sense, resentment is not just an emotion, it's a worldview. Psychology tells us something similar. Resentment is rarely a single outburst, it is the result of rumination. The mind revisits an old slight, replays the humiliation, or rehearses what should have been said. Each replay strengthens the memory's emotional grip, making the wound feel fresh even years later. The body responds too, stress hormones rise, tension sets in, sleep suffers. The grudge doesn't just sit in the mind, it takes up residence in the nervous system. Resentment becomes embodied. And with time, it isn't just about the event that caused it but about the person's identity. "I am the one who was wronged" becomes a silent creed. The tragedy is that resentment rarely hurts the target as much as it hurts the host. The co-worker you despise for taking credit may sleep peacefully, while you lose hours in imaginary confrontations. The ex-lover you replay arguments with has moved on, while you carry the ghost of them into every new connection. Resentment locks you into a permanent relationship with the past. It is memory turned into a prison sentence. But why is resentment so seductive? Because it feels safer than vulnerability. To let go of resentment would mean admitting that something truly hurt you, that you were wounded in ways you could not control. Holding on to bitterness feels like protection, it gives shape to the chaos of pain, makes it seem as if at least you can grip it tightly. The irony is that this grip stops you from opening your hands to anything new. Resentment also thrives on the illusion of justice. Many people mistake their bitterness for morality, believing that holding on to anger proves they care about what is right. In truth, resentment confuses accountability with obsession. Justice requires clarity, but resentment clouds the mind, exaggerating slights, inventing narratives, and blurring the line between reality and projection. Instead of seeing people as they are, you see them through the filter of old wounds, and this distorts everything. The most devastating aspect of resentment is how it sabotages love. In close relationships, resentment accumulates like dust. A harsh word, a forgotten gesture, an unmet need, none of these on their own can shatter intimacy. But when unspoken and unprocessed, they pile up, layering bitterness into every interaction. Eventually, partners stop fighting for resolution and begin fighting to wound, because resentment has already taken root. Families collapse this way, friendships rot, marriages become battlefields not because of a single betrayal, but because of unhealed resentments that no one dared to confront. So what can be done? The first lesson is that resentment cannot be destroyed by denial. Suppressing it only drives it deeper, making it more corrosive. The only way out is through. That means facing the pain underneath the bitterness, acknowledging the hurt, admitting the sense of powerlessness, grieving what was lost. It means asking yourself not how was I wronged, but what wound am I carrying that I am unwilling to let heal. Forgiveness plays a role here, but not in the shallow way it's often preached. Forgiveness is not pretending that nothing happened or excusing cruelty. Forgiveness is the decision to release yourself from the chokehold of the past, to reclaim the energy you've been feeding into someone else's shadow. It's a way of saying, I refuse to keep paying rent to memories that no longer serve me. Another path is action. Resentment festers in passivity. When you redirect that energy into constructive movement, whether it's pursuing a new goal, having the hard conversation, or reshaping the conditions of your life, you weaken the grip of the old grievance. Nietzsche suggested that resentment is the morality of the powerless, and the antidote is not moral superiority but reclaiming one's agency. To act is to cut the roots of bitterness. Finally, there is the lesson of perspective. Life will always contain injustice, betrayal, disappointment. To demand a world where nothing wounds you is to set yourself up for endless bitterness. But to see wounds as part of the human condition, as opportunities to grow sharper, wiser, and more resilient, transforms resentment into something else, into learning. The scar remains, but it no longer festers. Resentment is indeed a silent war within. It eats from the inside out, making the self a battlefield where victories are illusions and losses are endless. To live with resentment is to live in chains, yet to release it is not just to forgive but to reclaim freedom. The lesson, perhaps, is that bitterness feels like strength but is really weakness, while letting go feels like weakness but is really strength. Life is too short to be consumed by the shadow of others. At some point, you have to stop rehearsing the war and start living the peace.